Hello, welcome to the final episode of Value Investing. Over the last 4 episodes, you've heard from market veterans in the listed equity space, the traditional guys, the traditional investors in traditional securities, and you've understood from them the concepts and how they made it big. The guest of this program, this episode today, is somebody who's broken the mold, so to speak. For the traditional investor, he's pretty much in uncharted territory. With me is Nikhil Vora. You've not seen him on air for a couple of years now. Nikhil, thanks very much for your time.
Pleasure.
You were known as one of the top research analysts in the country. You headed IDFC Securities in your last avatar, and then you disappeared. You've been in Bombay, but not on TV and media. So tell our viewers a little bit, what have you been doing and what are you doing now, more importantly?
Firstly, thanks for having me on air. It's been quite a bit. So obviously, this departure has been for fair reasons. So over the last couple of years, what we've done is we've really set up India's first consumer-centric domestic venture fund. So I run Sixth Sense Ventures, which is the fund that we've started out. And the idea was frankly about pulling across what we did in the last 20 years and aggregating that all into an organization and create one out of it, which is about maybe 3 or 4 core issues that one thought was relevant. One is what we think is our understanding of the consumer landscape, and for good or bad reasons, we've always pitched ourselves as consumer specialists in some form. So this is the consumer-centric fund, and we've done that for the better part of our life. Second was about getting all our relationships on board. So while one moves from a professional environment to an entrepreneurial journey, we didn't want to leave our relationships which we've built over the last 20 years, and we've created an ecosystem within Sixth Sense Ventures, which we think is very formidable and also aids a lot of young stage businesses that we are going to invest in. And the third is about our investing capabilities. Again, I've been an investor, personally been an investor for the last 20 years in the markets. Fair bit of my personal capital over the last 7-8 years was into the early stage businesses, into private businesses, and one got a sense that that's the space to be in over a long-term period, because fundamentally we were looking at investing in the consumer of tomorrow, today, and that's what one thought was very relevant to do.
The last point is important, that you in your personal capacity were invested in some of the early stage businesses over the last 7 to 8 years. So taking outside money to manage and putting them into these businesses was kind of a natural progression from there.
It was, because I think the sense one got was that for businesses that are going to be relevant over the next 5-10 years, those businesses are being built in India today. And if they're being built in India today, they obviously are not listed. So the challenge was that are the leaders of today going to be the leaders of tomorrow? And almost always one got the answer that it's not likely to be. So, and that is true even if one looks at history globally, that 90% of Fortune 500 companies have died over decades, because it's unlikely that leaders of the past carry on the mantle and become leaders of the future. And our sense was that unlike in the past, new age entrepreneurs, first generation entrepreneurs had no baggage of the past. They had no mortal fear of taking on a Unilever, for instance, and they had a fairly good risk appetite along with a very clear sense of business direction, and they were participating in what the consumer of tomorrow would require, be it in terms of products, services, distribution,
so in a way,
analytics, and so on.
The focus is new businesses, which in a way did not exist earlier. Maybe there was demand for those businesses, but those services and products did not exist, and now they exist, and they're meeting that captive demand.
So I think the essence of what we're trying to do is invest in a smart-ass team, who makes a kick-ass product in a big-ass market, frankly. That's what we're trying to do. We think we did a fairly competent job of it in a listed space over the last 20 years. And we think we will do a fairly competent job of it in the next 10 years into the same space. So I think it could be in new emerging markets, new businesses. It could be in traditional businesses, but which are done very differently. So a lot of our investing that we've done in Sixth Sense Ventures pretty much emanates from that philosophy, where what is clearly a prerequisite is that the space has to be extremely large.
Yeah.
What is also a prerequisite is that we should really love the sponsors whom we are investing with. And what is also a prerequisite is that their product capability and their execution capability is of something which we can really vouch for. So I think as long as they fall into that framework,
mold,
we are
yes.
good to go.
Let me ask you, why can't established businesses, great franchises, you think, do it? Why do you think it's not? You believe it's not possible for them to do it?
I think there are a couple of core reasons. One is that if the consumer of tomorrow is changing, fundamentally he's calling for a complete change in the way businesses are being delivered to him today.
Okay.
Which means that there is disruption that the consumer of tomorrow is seeking, and it's very unlikely that a traditional business which has been doing reasonably well will change course to disrupt its own business to be relevant tomorrow.
Okay.
It's almost unlikely everywhere in the world. There are very, very few players who really emerge from that trend.
What about investing in that idea in a separate unit and building it up? We haven't seen that, I mean, frankly, as...
We haven't seen that. I think I see a sense of urgency in and actually traditional businesses now looking at that same framework. So if I look at, let's say, a Unilever, which is very close to my heart always, Unilever or an ITC and so on, traditional successful businesses, they are starting to look at those frameworks. But my gut is that for them to really go whole hog is a bit challenging. It's as challenging as a Titan trying to sell a Cartier tomorrow.
Okay.
There might be great demand for a Cartier and Omega and Rado, but I think Titan would do a disservice to their own brands if they start to sell third-party brands. So I think it's as good as that. So I think it's a challenge for existing players to really shift gear, shift domain, because the DNA of the organization is meant for being comfortable with what has been successful till date.
Sure.
And I think it's our responsibility as venture fund, it's our responsibility as early stage investors to really be participating and helping grow the environment which will be relevant for the next 15-20 years.
Some of the investments that you have, and some are private, some are public, and you can obviously come in there. Crossroads India Assistance. There's a company called Grab in which you have put in money. Paytm is now up there as kind of the flag torchbearer of new businesses, new age businesses, and is doing very well. Vinny Cosmetics. Let's just pick up a few and let's maybe start with Crossroads India Assistance, where you put in money. What was the idea? What got you attracted?
So I think there are two pools to really look at. One is what I did in my personal capacity over the last 7-8 years.
Sure.
So I think the first transition also of setting up 6sense was about the feeling that a lot of value and a lot of relevant businesses are being built as we speak, and thereby one was investing today. And those were almost always in private domain.
Okay.
So a fair bit of my personal capital was being moved into early stage businesses over the last 7-8 years. And some of the names I ended up investing amongst the seed investors or amongst the very early stage investors included Paytm, Parag Milk, which is the Go Cheese brand, Vinny Cosmetics, which is the Fog Deo brand, Kangaroo Kids, PVG, Purple.com, Bavecoof, Infinite Analytics, and so on. I think interesting part in all those investments which I did in my personal capacity was that in retrospect I thought there was a similar line across all these investments that one did. These were almost always first generation entrepreneurs. They were operating in large spaces and they had no mortal fear of taking on leaders in their space.
Okay.
And they created a difference in the way the products were being sold or the services were being consumed and so on. We wanted to really continue that same line of thought as we started 6sense and really invest from there. So from 6sense we've done 5 investments. The notable ones as of now include Crossroads and Ethos and Grab.
Sure.
So Ethos is India's largest luxury watch retailer, and it perfectly fits in with our theme of investing in the consumer of tomorrow today. Our sense is that as brands become very powerful, they become master brands and then they become a generic. I think Titan is going through that curve. Where it becomes generic and thereby it loses relevance over a period of time, unless the brands obviously morph and change course. The only way to move away from Titan is to move up, which is start to buy into the Swiss watches, which is the Cartiers and Omegas and Rados of the world.
This kind of sits in with something that you've said for years as well, premiumization, right?
Precise.
Across product categories.
Yeah. I think it pretty much fits in with that theme. And our sense is that, if India today is 15% of India is actually mid-premium. Look at China. China is 70% of Chinese market is actually mid-premium. So there's such a huge evolution which will happen in that category. And the only leader in that category today is someone like Ethos, which is a trusted brand, trusted distribution platform which is available. So we
just FYI for our viewers, Ethos is a company owned by the promoters of Kamla Dials, which is a listed company, right?
Yeah. So Ethos is a subsidiary of KDDL, which is a listed company. Yeah.
Okay. But you've invested in Ethos.
Yeah.
Which is the?
Our investments are in Ethos, which is the subsidiary of KDDL.
Okay. So go on.
So we like Ethos on that basis. So we think there's a long rope in this business. We've invested in a company called Crossroads, which I think is a very interesting and fascinating business. It again fits in with our theme of investing in the consumer of tomorrow. Indians by nature are very assistance driven in almost all forms, right? Right from our homes to our offices, to our cars and so on. We require assistance in all forms. Crossroad is India's largest roadside assistance company, which means that anywhere in India, your car is stuck. In 30 minutes, they'll be there to help you out.
Okay.
Which I think is a fantastic claim to be at and fantastic positioning to be at. Now, in the context where, let's say you have a flat tire, I'm sure we've never done up our flat tires ourselves. Our drivers have very rarely seen it. And I'm sure our wives have never seen tires.
Sure.
So I think there's a need for such a service model to evolve. And this is a model which prevails globally. So you look at the AA of UK or the AAA of US, these are all 100% penetrated markets. India is only 1% penetrated in RSA. And Crossroad is 75% of that 1%. So de facto, they are amongst the only players in that space. We like this space. We think there's a huge opportunity in this, both from a B2B perspective as also B2C. They are the largest B2C player in India. They have over 2.5 lakh subscribers. And it's a model which I think is at the cusp of change from being a physical infra player, which is what they've been, to also being a completely technological led company. So they'll morph into being a AAA of US along with a Honk or a Urgently, which I think is a huge value proposition to be in.
So these are just to understand this, this is you need to be a subscriber and pay something annually to be able to avail of this service when the need the need arises.
So you'll fundamentally become a subscriber at say $1,000 per year, and that's what makes you
and they have 75% of the market, which is still very, very small.
It's very small, yeah. It's a 1% penetrated market. It's a market where volume growth can be 100 times, given that where you're at 1%. The value growth is at a differential of 20x compared to global market. So there is a huge room for ARPU growth in some form in this. We see this as a very valuable business. Globally, a couple of RSA companies got listed and bought over. They got valued at $3.5 billion and $1.5 billion. So clearly, there's a very, very huge value proposition which is in this business. There is a fair bit of consumer stickiness which happens. So we think this is
and they've been around for a decade and a half, right?
They've been around for a decade. They've been self-funded till now. We're the first investors in that company and that business, and we think there's a long way to go in this.
Why isn't this listed? I think our viewers would want to know.
I think obviously a lot of these businesses have very strong legs to walk and run. It requires some support in the initial stages, and this is where we really come in. We're the first investors in it. The business was self-funded, and I think there's this huge roadmap which is available for them. Eventually, these are businesses which will be strategic in nature. Either they grow on their own strength and they become very, very relevant, or these are very strategic assets for insurance companies or other players to really look at them, or car companies.
Or car companies for that matter. What about a company called Grab, which you invested in? It's a hyper logistics service provider.
So Grab.
What do they do?
So Grab is a play for hyper growth and hyper local. Let me just position it at that. Grab is one of the larger hyper local companies which does deliveries for food and groceries business, and they will now move into a lot of other verticals, including logistics and so on. I think it's a fantastic bunch of guys whom we've invested in. We like the space. We think this is a very relevant space over a period of time. The last mile connect is something which is a very specialized domain, and most players would want to really not be part of it and really get it outsourced. So there is a very huge B2B angle today in it, which maybe over a period of the next 3 to 5 years will morph into B2C also.
Okay.
So we like the space. We've co-invested along with Zomato in this, which is again interesting from the perspective that we've looked at. By Zomato investing in it, we've in some form ensured that the customer acquisition cost pretty much becomes zero. Zomato is the front end, and that really helps us to piggy ride on the growth of Zomato pan-India and maybe in a lot of parts of the world, and really grow on that basis. So our customer acquisition cost becomes negligible, which I think is a big positive for a player like this.